Alvin, was he saying that for you or for Sarah? Because I keep hearing that members of both parties, for instance, on the China Select Committee, would not have been satisfied if he hadn't gone for the dictator remark, if he had suggested there was some thawing here. Maybe a better way to ask it, was that for the domestic audience?
You know, actually, I was asking myself that same question earlier. Yeah. I was like, who is this message actually for? And I think when you think of just, you know, the short list of things that actually can unite the country, China opposition to China is definitely at the top of the list, right? And so I think it was more so, you know, the president being consistent at least. But I think given, you know, I mean, we had members of Congress that were asking for full list of, you know, attendees to receptions after the conference. And I mean, if that's the approach, then I think this is an instance where the president, you know, I believe he went off script a bit here. But like, this is where you do it, right? To like let everyone know, hey, I did this, I didn't like it, I still feel this way, and we'll move forward. And so I think it was a bit of that in his intention, or at least I hope.
Well, and some of this isn't even just a matter of feeling. It's about definitions to a large extent, Sarah. I have the Oxford definition of a dictator pulled up in front of me, and it says a person who behaves in an autocratic way. It's not necessarily inaccurate, but doesn't mean that you say it out loud when this is a position or a relationship that you are trying to get into a better position.
So I think he planned to say that. I think it was actually a smart move that he did. And I don't see that the Chinese are upset that he said it. I think he took it as a compliment. And he certainly did make the Republicans happy, because we have been saying that for months and months that we have to deal with China. So I actually give Biden a point here on this one.
Very interesting. Was the meeting a success as a whole? When you look at military-to-military communication, counter-narcotics, that was supposed to be a nod to conservatives, to Republicans who have been beating the drum on this. Those are real deliverables.
They seem to be. We're very thrilled with those. We'll see how it plays out, but it's certainly a great first step. And it's really nice to just have them talking again. I mean, we are the two world powers.
I feel like
we need to be at the table together.
We can't underscore that enough, because we get obsessed with deliverables and you know, what's the readout going to be. The market was celebrating the fact that they were in the same room, which says a lot.
Well, the market doesn't like uncertainty.
Absolutely. And
perhaps a certain degree of uncertainty around just, will this meeting go okay or not? Will the U.S. and China get on a better page? Was removed a bit. But when we think about what the deliverables actually were, Alvin, on fentanyl, on military communications, just talking seems to be an accomplishment. Is this a case of the bar just having been set really low, and that's why this trip looks successful?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there hadn't been any discussions between the two of them in, a year at least. And so I think, you know, when we started talking about, you know, what is actually, like, happening here, I think the actual exercise is just, you know, as important, at least today, as the actual deliverable of it all. And so I think the fact that, you know, I mean, and this came, you know, from their party as well, which is just the fact that it is almost impossible for China and America not to have these conversations. So I think it's a win for the administration to be able to say, we walked in, we stood on our points that, you know, we kind of all are aligned on, and we'll try to make progress along those lines.
No, we're agreeing way too much around the table.
I know.
I'm going to veer into something here, because first I need to give credit to our colleague Sarah Chamberlain for getting it right twice. First time told us the government's not shutting down when everybody said it was going to happen. And I believe last week at this time you said, you know, not feeling great about it, but at the last minute they're going to pull it out. They actually got it done early, which is pretty remarkable.
I was not expecting that.
So, well, listen, kudos to you. I talked earlier today with Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, on Bloomberg Sound On, to talk about whether a Republican president, if that's where this goes, would interfere with the implementation of the infrastructure bill. It was the 2-year anniversary of the signing yesterday, and they were out in force today to try to deliver that message of what has happened. But what if Joe Biden doesn't win in the next election? Here's what he said.
When politics interfere, it's never good. I mean, we saw that recently with these shutdown threats. You know, that would have slowed us down or even stopped us on vital things like air traffic control, hiring, which I think we all recognize we need to be doing more, not less. Right now, we have a congressional GOP in the House that is proposing major cuts that would cut our ports program. It would cut the program we've used to build safer railroad infrastructure. So I do worry about that.
So that's the message from the administration today by way of the transportation secretary. How real are those concerns? Should he be worried that those cuts are coming?
No, I don't think so. I mean, President Trump had talked about doing transportation bill for almost all 4 years that he was there. That was a very bipartisan bill. The members of Main Street really like what's the projects going on in their districts. Yeah. This will not get stopped. This is full ahead, no matter who becomes the president.
Can I ask quickly what you would say to him, also kind of poking at Republicans who voted against the infrastructure bill but hold ribbon-cutting ceremonies when the money comes to town? Is that just Washington?
It's Washington's politics. I mean, that's what they do.
Grow up?
Yes, grow up.
Okay.